Hello, everyone. Welcome to Café New Canadians. Café New Canadians is a virtual event series where every week we bring topics that matters to immigrants, newcomers to Canada, international students, and all those who plan to come to Canada. So today's topic would be very important in terms of immigration. We'll talk about the immigration plan, the new plan. You can also watch us on YouTube and on our website, newcanadians.tv, and also you can watch us on Omni Television. Omni Television, these are the times, then you can just watch our sessions on all the things that matters to newcomers to Canada or the immigrants in Canada. And you can also connect with us on our social media, our Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, on all social media across. You can follow us. You can get the latest updates on our new sessions and our previous sessions. My name is Sherdal Khan. I am your host for today's session. And we have with us Jenny Rokhline. She's an immigration lawyer and founder of Legally Canadian Immigration Law Firm. So thank you so much, Jenny, for joining us. And we'll be talking to her and we'll be asking her several questions on new immigration plan, the immigration update. And as we know that IRCC, that is Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, has continued to accept and process immigrations application throughout the pandemic, and the global travel restrictions, also capacity constraints, led to a shortfall in almost over the last several months. But this new plan for 2021 to 2023, what are the expectations for this plan, and how people can get the information for this? Because several thousands of people are planning to come to Canada in these 3 years. So again, thank you so much for all you have joined us through Zoom or watching us on YouTube. You can send us your questions, your comments, and we'll ask them from Jenny. Jenny, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure having you. And so what about last 3 or 4 months during the pandemic? How IRCC managed to get all the things right? There was a slow process, but they didn't stop it. So many people came and got their statuses and got their immigration during these 3 months. So how was last 3 months?
Well, if we're talking in terms of applications, I don't think an interest in immigrating to Canada has been negatively affected during the pandemic and the past 4 months, because I think one way or another we got some idea what's going on, what we're dealing with in terms of pandemic, and people who plan to come to Canada continued with their plans, with their applications. There was, of course, a delay due to English test centers being closed, so many people could not actually complete some of their immigration applications, but the student permit applications continued being processing. We had a couple of applications that we submitted, let's say sometime in March or April during the most hot months with respect to pandemic. They have been approved late September. Of course, all of those applicants had to postpone their studies to the next year. And well, we'll see what next year brings to us, but ultimately we're hoping to see those students in Canada next year. And by next year, it can be January, April, because various colleges and educational institutions start their programs at different times. So this is an exciting part, that because international students in general is a big stream of potential immigrants into Canada. So when the pandemic hit, of course, it also hit the enrollments of a lot of students at the educational institutions. So it seems like we might not be back on to the same level as we were before, but it seems like an interest in coming to Canada as students and then potentially staying here longer remains there. And I think our Minister of Immigration did mention that he's ultimately the aim with this new plan also to address path to immigration for people who are already here. And international students were part of that group that they want to see whether or not they can ease the path for them to remain in Canada.
So it almost affected everyone, like immigrants and also international students, spousal sponsorship. So it affected to all the applicants, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Most of the applications were affected. The way our immigration system works, like some of applications are being processed electronically, so that was less affected in terms of like we had no problem actually submitting the applications. Those applications that are paper-based, for example, the spousal sponsorships, they went into the immigration offices and stayed there while the offices were closed. So slowly we hear back that offices are being reopened, both in Canada and abroad, and people start accessing those applications. But if I'll give you timelines, so we did have applications for spousal sponsorships that were submitted in February this year. Okay. Only last week we heard back that the application was accepted into processing. So basically just confirming that they found this application.
So they are taking all the applications, but as you know, all these things happening around over the globe. So it is taking some time, right?
It does take some time. So if potential immigrants or people who are waiting for their visas being processed want to take a look at the processing times, so Immigration of Canada provides a tool where you can check the processing times for various applications. So almost everywhere now there is a notation that we cannot predict now the approximate processing times in light of COVID-19. So when someone consults us, we have to say like that's what it was before COVID. This is what we're seeing right now, but unfortunately there's no way to say whether or not this is how it's going to go. We're going to go faster or slower.
Okay, so Jenny, what about this new plan like 2021, 2020, 2022 and 2023? As there are some statistics that they want almost 401,000 people in 2021, 411,000 2022, and 421,000 2023. So they have a big plan coming up for the next 3 years. So what are the new things in the plan?
Well, the new thing, well, first of all, of course, that it's an ambitious plan. I'm happy to see that Canada takes the position that despite the pandemic, despite everything that's happening, we really should continue bringing immigrants to Canada, because that's really how we grow and become stronger and better as a nation. But ultimately, the new part of this plan, at least based how immigration has presented it, is that they want to concentrate more on economic immigration. So to those who don't really know what it is, so Canadian immigration has different streams. Some of those are economic, so that's usually for individuals who bring skilled immigration. Okay. There's of course family immigration streams, that's all kind of sponsorships. And there is a refugee path, which just the way Canada accept refugees who are fleeing their countries of persecution. So based on what our minister told us during his announcement is that they want to concentrate on more bringing economic immigrants into Canada. What it means for us, we're going to see what it is ultimately. The whole idea was to show that it's either going to be easier to become an economic immigrant in Canada, or maybe we're going to see different paths for individuals who are already in Canada, workers, for example, international workers who are here, international students as well, to kind of find a path for them to become permanent residents and maybe easing the way into the path of permanent residence.
Okay, Jenny, there's a question Jawahar is asking, like he said that me and his wife are PR, whereas our daughter is here with us in Canada on visitor visa. I'll be applying for a PR sponsorship to my daughter. How much time would this sponsorship process would take for my daughter to receive her PR?
And once again, I'll have to say the same way I'm answering all those questions. I really don't know. I have no statistics to give you now, like how long it will take. In general, we've managed to have pre-COVID an application like that finalized within 8 to 9 months,
Okay.
but it can be longer now, unfortunately.
Okay, so we'll break down all the streams that you have discussed. Like first of all, economic stream, we'll talk about that. The express entry, we have seen that the CRS was pretty high this time. So in that case, what do you think about that? How many people expected in these coming few months getting their approvals and all that?
So I don't know what to expect in terms of approvals, but what we need to keep in mind is that 476 or 78, the selection score that was today is pretty high for majority of applicants. And in particular, it's a pretty high score for those who are here as international students who started working and obtained at least 1 year of Canadian work experience. So those individuals might have trouble actually meeting the cutoff right now. But once again, going back to the comments of our minister, I don't know if that's what he's hinting at, that there's going to be a different subcategory, a sub-program to bring skilled immigrants into Canada. At the same time, with this score, which once again, 470 sounds crazy high, we have seen applicants from United States who are interested to move here, who are currently working in the United States as temporary workers. And we do get a lot of applicants who are bilingual. And we have already seen that the government started taking some additional steps to actually increase immigration, and in particular, Francophone immigration. So
Yes.
I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, they have announced that they are going to add points for people who are bilingual or who are French speaking. So that's also our government's way to bring more immigration outside of province of Quebec, of course.
Okay, and are there some other flexibilities they have introduced in the new plan, or any flexibility in terms of language, in terms of other aspects?
Well, not that I've heard of yet. Maybe you can let me know. But ultimately, right now, it's an announcement and a plan of how the government tries to implement it. We are waiting for additional instructions, which I think we will receive pretty soon. I really hope at least it's going to be pretty soon. But individuals who are looking to see whether or not it's going to get easier to get into Canada, I would recommend they do the same thing I do almost every day, just checking immigration website for updates. Sometimes updates come twice a day, so it's better to have some sort of a reminder to check the immigration program and then see if you meet the requirements. Once again, if it becomes easier, I'm pretty sure it will be known. But those of you who are not meeting the requirements right now, I would strongly advise you get the rest of your documents ready. So once the program opens, so you will be able to submit your application as soon as possible.
Okay, Jenny, one more thing. Like we are talking about express entry, we are talking about all the skilled immigrants, they want to come to Canada. What are the things that you think they should prepare in terms that you have said that earlier, that prepare your documents and everything. Are there some other things that they want to look forward in terms of getting their applications approved?
So express entry is just one part of economic immigration. So this is a federal application process. We also, of course, have various community immigration programs, and it seems like our government actually also investing time, money, and effort in developing those programs. So my favorite as of lately is the Northern and Rural Pilot Program. Last week or this week, last community joined the program and opened their employment board. So you can find actual applications and positions for occupations in demand. So ultimately, both streams, economic immigration through express entry and immigration through the provinces and various pilot programs. So you need to get ready for different types of applications. So my recommendation is always figure out what is your classification code. That's like what is your job and how it fits within the classification codes. It's called NOC, National Occupational Classification Code. So figure this out and see if that NOC might be in demand in one of the provinces or
Can you list some of those who are in the high demand right now?
So each province has its own list on in-demand programs, but New Brunswick, for example, just recently had, I think, about like 20 or 25 various NOCs that they listed as in-demand occupations, and they were doing an international job fair. And the positions were in a wide range from truck drivers to donut machine operator, nurses, of course, some management positions. So that was for New Brunswick. We can see, for example, in Ontario, Ontario does its own tech draws. Those are usually for positions related to computers, IT, software engineering, etc. So you have to decide what your province is based on your skill set. And unfortunately, it's going to take time for actually to go through all the provinces and figure out which one works for you. But that's usually a step when you don't really meet requirements for express entry.
Okay, I would like you to dwell on the Northern pilot project that you have shared. That is a good program right now, and could you please share some details on that? Because that is a stream that so many people are searching for right now on the internet. Like,
sure.
You can elaborate this plan, how this is going to affect, and what are the prospects for this program?
So ultimately, the underlying principle for this program was to bring immigrants into small communities that are ultimately struggling and don't have enough people to fill out the jobs. I think there wasn't even a newspaper article discussing that for one small city in Alberta that only had 20 positions open through the pilot. They received like hundreds and thousands of applications. Northern pilot project is job offer based. So you first need to actually find an employer who will be interested in hiring you for this position. And you have to meet the community requirements. And once again, they're different for each community. In addition to that, of course, you also have to meet the basic Immigration Canada requirements, such as you have to have an English test, you have to have your education assessed, you should not have any criminal issues in the past, and of course, you should be healthy. The program is great because if you really are skilled, if you have and you can present evidence that you know what to do for this position, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be invited by one of the employers to apply and be hired. That also means that you will be moving to this small community, maybe to a city or town that you haven't heard in the past about, but this is a great opportunity to get into Canada and to basically start working in your profession and not just doing some low-skilled work.
Okay. Another question. It is for bookkeeper. It is possible to find a job via North Pilot program, and do I need to be presented there to apply for job?
So I presume the person who's asking is outside of Canada. Whether it's possible to find position, I presume it is. It hasn't been in demand for quite some time. I believe there was only one draw. I might be confusing it either this year or last year through the Ontario when they did select a bookkeeper as an occupation in demand. So it's possible. It's much harder, I think, for a good bookkeeper to find a job, but I do believe I recently saw a position for a bookkeeper in one of the Northern pilot programs.
Okay.
So yeah, so I didn't like, there was a second part of this question, like whether I need to present. So Generally, if you're applying through a pilot program, so you're not required, or your employer is not required to go through special steps to be authorized to hire a foreign national. If you're not doing it through a pilot, then your employer has to obtain special authorization to hire you for this position. And I would presume that's going to be really hard to prove that employer needs you, a foreign national, rather than someone who is local.
Okay, another question. What is the timeline to get work permit this time due to this happenings due to this pandemic?
So if we're talking for people who are inside of Canada, who are switching from one job to another, from one work permit to another, we have seen some of the pretty fast processing times. We had one that was done within 2 weeks after filing, and I think another one a month and a half. So that was for inside of Canada when you already have a status, some sort of status in Canada. With respect to an outside of Canada, the processing times right now, based on the applications that we submitted, and that's really the only reference that I have, we're looking at something between 5 to 6 months until we hear something back.
Okay, and especially like the travel restrictions and all that, do you think these going to affect all the people who are not right now in Canada, but elsewhere in the world, and they wanted to come back, or their family members want to come back here in these circumstances? So what are your suggestions about that? Like parental sponsorship, they have recently opened it. In that case, what do you suggest?
Well, so the travel restrictions I think Immigration Canada did a pretty good job at opening the borders for those who need to come reunite with their family members. So initially, of course, limitations were pretty strict, but once again, I don't think we can fault our government for this. It was really an unusual situation for all of us. Then they opened it for family members, immediate family members. And recently they have announced an extended family members. So that would include grandchildren, non-dependent children, boyfriends and girlfriends, exclusive romantic relationships, how immigration puts it. So they have been doing that, trying to reunite families in Canada. However, in reality, sometimes this is actually acts as some sort of a limit or a brick to actually come to Canada, because the waiting times to get approval from a visa office to have an opportunity to come to Canada is actually taking, someone just recently told me, like 6 weeks they were waiting for authorization to actually board the plane and come to Canada to reunite with a family member. So of course, this is something that complicates the process. I have a couple of clients who can't come to Canada just because there are no flights, because their country is in a serious pandemic mode. So a lot of things are closed, flights are not happening. So I think that also kind of limits our expectations of how many people we can welcome in Canada as temporary residents, as permanent residents. There were a lot of people that got stuck outside of Canada and were not able to come and become permanent residents. And now their papers have expired and they need to go through a different set of steps to actually obtain a new visa to come to Canada as permanent residents.
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask you next. Like so many people during this pandemic, their confirmation of PR expired. In that case, what are the times they can get the visa again and they can come to Canada once all these things get settled down?
Thank you for this question, because today was one of those days when I actually had to deal with this particular case. Just to give some basic information, this particular individual was approved for permanent residence and was supposed to come with the family at the end of March this year. They had a confirmation of permanent residence. Everything was working great. They just had, they needed some time to actually sell their things back home. COVID hit, they were notified that they cannot come and that a visa office or Immigration Canada will contact them with next steps. The next steps came in sometime in the summer, and they were very basic. Just provide to us where you plan to quarantine, that you'll have an opportunity to feed yourself because government of Canada is not going to be sending food to your house. Prove to us that you have employment. So just basic information for people that you would ask when they come to Canada as permanent residents. The person did apply, submit all the required documents, and we were so excited because we thought soon enough their confirmation of permanent residence will be extended and they will be able to come to Canada. And just today we were notified that they did not meet the exemption. And the only reason that didn't happen is because by the time Immigration Canada got to their application, their medical examinations have expired. Medical examinations in general are only valid for 1 year. So Immigration Canada felt like this is not, like they need to undergo a new set of medical examinations. This is quite unfortunate and ultimately means that these individuals are stuck again. They'll have to go through a medical examination process. Not every medical office is open in their country. So there's going to be a wait time. Then there's potential wait time to actually resubmit all of those documents. So it is unfortunate what we're looking at in terms of extending confirmation of permanent residence. I think 5 to 6 months is something that those individuals who have it have to keep in mind. And I would also recommend them making sure that their medical exam is still valid, or at least take steps to apply early before the expiration of the medical exam.
And what about the other documentation, like character certificate and everything? They have to be updated in that case if they are expecting a confirmation of PR?
So if they're expecting confirmation of PR, it's better to keep all of the documents up to date. Now, if they already have a confirmation of permanent residence, follow the instructions that immigration gives to you, but also keep in mind some of the other documents that do expire. And one of those documents will be the medical exam at this point.
Okay, another very important question that I wanted to ask you, like all the things that are happening right now in the world, and especially the employment condition here in Canada, people are waiting for their applications, waiting for their interviews and all that. In that case, what do you suggest that what could be the funds that they can bring in here in Canada just to survive few more months if all the things that are happening and it is taking time? So what do you think? Should they add more funds to their proof of funds?
Well, so if for the purposes of proof of funds, so you still have to show that you have this money, and the estimate was basically to allow you to actually live here as new immigrants without actually being able to find a job. Now, I understand it's very scary to be moving to a new country without a job lined up, especially if you're moving with a family. So I personally think all those people that do it, they're very brave. And I'm happy that they're taking this extra step to change their lives and move to a different country, build a new future here. But in terms of employment opportunities, I think we'll have to look at what kind of job they do, like what's their skill set. Because like if you were some sort of a huge manager somewhere in your country, expecting that you're going to get a managerial job right away, maybe it's not very realistic. So just having something to fall back on, some financial plan would be recommended. Once again, this has nothing to do with my practice as an immigration lawyer. It's mostly just personal thoughts that you want to make sure that you have enough money for rent, you have enough money for food, and then you will be spending all this time to find employment. And I would understand people that will be postponing their move to Canada because and realizing that there might be a job shortage for them.
So do you think Government of Canada, IRCC, is thinking about raising that bar a bit high in terms of proof of funds, or it's the pretty same like the previous?
It's interesting. I don't know what they're thinking about, but I would like to know that I was pleasantly surprised when they have announced the opening of the parental sponsorship application. So we had to register for that. that they did allow for variation of your income, because they understand as a sponsor, you might actually have lost your job, or your income has been reduced for any other reasons due to the pandemic. So they would accept individuals who do not meet the cutoffs for the minimal income, and would allow them to participate in the parental sponsorship application process.
Okay, we'll talk about parental sponsorship. As you mentioned earlier, that it is now open, and they are accepting applications. So what are the things that if somebody wants to get their parents here in Canada, what are the things that you can suggest them, how they can prepare their application and all the process?
So so the application process has closed. It was only open for 3 weeks, I believe. So from October to November. So the application, it's not an application, it's application of interest. So you basically register, letting the government know that you will be interested in hiring, in sponsoring your parents to Canada. So, and then what they were going to do, they were going to do a lottery. They will select a set number of applications, and then those applicants will be able to submit an application to sponsor their parents. So far, based on what I've seen, there has not been much of a change in the way what documents they would require for parental sponsorship. So you'll have to show your income, that you meet the requirements of being a sponsor. You'll have to prove that you are in fact related to these people that you are sponsoring. So it's either parents or grandparents. So you will provide all the documents. They have not changed the deadline for submitting the application. So based on what I've seen recently on the immigration website, you're still going to have 60 days to submit complete application after you've been notified that you were selected and allowed to sponsor your parents. So 60 days sounds sometimes like, oh, it's enough time. It rarely is, because sometimes you just depend on other agencies. So I would recommend, if you're hoping that you're going to get into you're going to win that lottery, so at least prepare some basic information. And like, as I said, it's birth certificate, passports, any other documents proving the relationship, and notice of application is not really a problem to get nowadays. You just log in into CRA account and get it.
Okay, another question. What happens to a person who is PR but unable to meet 730-day obligation due to pandemic since March 2020?
So what happened, I don't know. What might happen, that's the difference. So there have been no separate instructions for individuals who were forced to stay outside of Canada, were not able to come back, and as a result failed to meet the residency obligations. I would presume the same grounds as you could use when it's no pandemic is what's called a humanitarian compassionate consideration. So once again, staying outside of Canada because you cannot come back sounds like something that's outside of your control, and I would expect that our government will be understanding. Now, I don't know. We haven't yet seen or done applications like that, but I would presume that a compelling argument could be made saying that it wasn't because I didn't want to come and that's why I didn't meet my residency obligation. It's just the situation happened. Please allow me to maintain my permanent resident status.
Okay, another question. Jawahar initially asked a question about her daughter, and he is asking what can be alternatives to avail benefits like childcare benefit for my daughter whose PR sponsorship is in the process?
That's not really a question to me. I'm only dealing with immigration questions, so this is something that's outside of my area of expertise.
Okay, and Jenny, we are talking about this new plan, and I want you to explain a little bit more on all these 3 years that are coming up, like 2020, 2022, and 2023. That so many people are welcomed here, and they are planning their application process. So is it a good time to just start off with your application, or you can just wait for some time? Maybe the application process after this pandemic goes away, it gets swift, that's fast. So what do you suggest?
I prefer being proactive, both as a lawyer and as a person. So ultimately, I think it's never too late or too early to start collecting documentations. What you need to know, individuals who are planning to come to Canada need to know. So if you create an express entry profile, it will be valid for 12 months. It costs you nothing to put it together. So you can have it there. You can stay there in the pool of candidates. If you get enough points, you can get selected. So I prefer people who are planning to come to Canada do that. Even if you don't meet the express entry requirements in terms of points, it also makes you able to actually quickly apply for other provincial programs. Most or majority of provincial programs require you to have a registration in express entry, even though you will be going through the provincial immigration process. So having this profile doesn't really hurt. You can always create a new one once the 12 months are up, and you can update your profile. If you decide to retake your IELTS or French exam, whatever it is, you can update this, you can get new scores. Who knows, maybe one of the provinces will decide to do a draw and will look into the pool and see, oh, there's an individual with this knock and meets all the other requirements, let's invite them to immigrate or to apply to immigrate to Canada. So I'm proactive. I would say go for it if this is something that you're planning to do eventually. If the situation changes and the process becomes easier or there's a new programs are introduced, I'm pretty sure having an express entry profile will allow you to quickly register for that new program.
So we were talking about some provincial nominee programs. What are the other programs in terms of provinces that are now welcoming more and more applicants, more and more immigrants?
I think our provinces are pretty smart at listing the jobs in demand, basically trying to address their economic shortages. Few days ago, the province of New Brunswick has announced that they're actually doing a virtual job fair for internationally trained nurses. That's something that, first of all, we all know that individuals in the healthcare system are in high demand right now. But we also know that there's a pretty lengthy process of actually getting your license approved in Canada as a medical professional. So New Brunswick is currently doing an international job fair. So they're looking for internationally trained nurses to meet the demand in the province. So ultimately keeping an eye for those special events within various provinces. In the past, maybe some of our viewers know that those provinces used to do info sessions. So they would go to various countries, various cities and hold those info sessions. Right now, in light of COVID, they're doing it virtually, which means ultimately you can be in Mexico and attend their virtual event in the Philippines. So this is great. This doesn't limit your opportunity. You don't need to travel. You don't need to buy tickets. You just need to register. And if you meet all the provinces looking for, they will at least give you an opportunity to meet potential employers.
Okay. So, another thing that happened during this pandemic was students, their studies went to online, and in-class sessions were they weren't able to attend the in-class sessions. So in that case, some of the students who got their admissions, but they were able to land here in Canada. In that case, what do you suggest? Should they go for their process, or they can wait? And what was the problems they were facing earlier, and now the government of Canada that solved their problems, and the universities also solved their problems?
Yes. So aside from just a short side note, one of my colleagues, friends, she's working at one of the educational institutions. And as we were discussing about various programs going online, we did discuss the fact that some studies cannot go online. They have to be hands-on. So obviously students who were coming for those hands-on type of programs, they are currently disadvantaged, but luckily universities, colleges, any other educational institutions, they do allow you to postpone your education. So we had a couple of people that were coming for more jobs that required physical exercise. They postponed it to the next year. We're hoping that the next year will be different, but also, there are some changes that have been introduced end of October, allowing some of the students to actually come to Canada with their valid study permits, but only if their educational institution has an approved plan for COVID-19 and they are listed on the immigration website. So this is a step in the right direction. So those who were studying online, who still want to come to Canada, because studying in Canada is not just studying in Canada, you're also getting with it an experience of this country. You create connections, you meet people, and you network. So ultimately you build your career starting from this program. But when you sit at home and study, all you get, you still get that education, but you're missing out on other parts of a student life. So I think it's great that our government realized that. I'm pretty sure they are very well aware that how much business it is to bring international students to Canada, and also not to put them at a disadvantage by staying in their countries and not being able to experience Canadian life to its fullest.
And does IRCC, because so many of their employees were working from home, in that case, do you think the process is going to get a bit faster once the operations are going back to normal?
Well, first of all, I'm hoping that most of the processes will move to an electronic format, and we have seen some movement on the part of our government and various agencies that work with immigration moving to an online electronic types of formats. So that takes care of this, right? So you can still stay at home, but you can have all the applications in front of you on the server or wherever it is that they're building it. So I really hope that this pandemic, one way or another, kind of taught us that we have to figure out a different way, not just be sending paper applications. Now, paper applications are not going yet anywhere, so we still have a lot of paper applications, including family sponsorship, and some of the provinces continue doing a paper application. I expect a huge backlog in those offices that are dealing with paper applications. And I don't think it's going to be soon when we'll hear back from those for those applications. But I really hope there's some sort of plans within the ministry of how to organize this work, so we will not lose those potential immigrants that we really want to have in our country, but who will just lose their faith and go somewhere else where it's faster.
And I would ask you, all applicants, unfortunately, their application wasn't approved. Should they try it again? Because next 3 years, do they have a chance in that case?
Well, we have to see why they were refused, but because refusal is something very different compared to just not meeting the requirements, right? So refusal, it means that the application was accepted into processing and there was something within the application that didn't really meet the requirements. So if we're talking about people who didn't meet the requirement or didn't even end up being accepted into any type of program for an assessment, it really depends how hard you really want to come to Canada. If you are really set on it and you know where you're missing out in terms of points or work experience or anything else, I think you have enough time to make your application better. We have 3 years of this very ambitious immigration plan, and I think our government is very serious about bringing that many people in, especially because we lost a lot on immigration in 2020. If we're talking about people who were refused, presuming that the reasons for refusal was not something serious that's preventing them from applying to immigrate to Canada for a number of years, learn from your mistakes. I'm an optimist in general, so I really think that if you didn't succeed once, you can learn from your mistakes, there's a good chance you will succeed next time. There's a lot of programs. There's a huge plan in terms of immigration. Keep up with information, reach out to lawyers, consultants, whoever you want to, like, build a plan. And once you have a plan in front of you, it's much easier to proceed. At least you know what to concentrate on and how to improve your profile, so next time you're not refused.
And as in the conclusion, I would again ask you to share some tips and tell our audience that why a lawyer or a consultant is necessary in these circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't say a lawyer or consultant is necessary. Once again, Immigration Canada has been very clear that if you want, you can complete your application on your own. There are, however, sometimes circumstances that you really want to have at least a second set of eyes. And for some applicants, it's enough to actually hire a lawyer to review the application to make sure that everything is correct and you're not misrepresenting any information. And they want to continue on their own. For some people, especially if they have some refusals in the past, I would recommend also at least taking a consultation with an immigration professional who knows ins and outs and can see what might be potential issues with your new application. In terms of tips in general, immigration is not a simple thing to do. Young people seem to be much easier in terms of movement, but if you're moving as a family, do take time to consider the time as you're going to be settling in Canada. See your finances. We did talk about today that you might not be able to find a job right away the next day to support your family. But I think if you really want to come to Canada, settle here, and if you're willing to put in time and sometimes money to actually get here, you'll have a good chance. There's something's happening in Canadian immigration. It's growing. We're going to see more numbers here, more economic immigration. So ultimately, get ready. Have all the documents, English test, French test, maybe even take a French language to improve your chances. You have 3 years to do it.
And most of all, be patient.
Be patient. Nothing happens right away. If it doesn't seem like you have some path forward, there's always things that you can improve. They're going to be much harder, but at the end of the day, investing time and effort quite often pays off in immigration.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Jenny Rokhline, immigration lawyer from Canadian, Legally Canadian, was joining us and was sharing a lot of great tips for the next 3 years, the new immigration plan that's coming up, and all the things that happened in pandemic that made some circumstantial delays in all the processes, but it is now picking up the pace. And as Jenny said, that be patient and prepare yourself. Also prepare all the documents and everything. And in that case, there's a good chance that you get your approvals and all that. And all the things that she shared is also available on the website. And this immigration update or other resources like you are seeing on the screen right now, Legally Canadian, www.legallycanadian.com is the website. All the resources she mentioned, or any other information you want to get, you can just log on to this website and you can get all the information. And there's a surprise and there's a giveaway. Clearly speaking, all attendees of our November session will enter into a lucky draw to win one of three $350 each value packages by Clearly Speaking for their professional development. And the website is clearly.ca. And also we'll talk about all the Café New Canadian sessions. You can just log on to our LinkedIn and you can get the information for all our upcoming sessions. And you can also connect with us on across all social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, also Instagram. And for all those who joined us, you can also interact on our Facebook group, New Canadians Connect, and you will get all the updates of our upcoming sessions, as well as for all our previous sessions as well. So thank you so much for all you who you watched. Who watched on Zoom. You can also help us create a better experience for you. You can join this survey, and also you can share your comments, updates. And thank you so much, Jenny, again for joining us, for sharing the great insights about immigration, and what are the things that you need to be aware of, and you need to know about the new immigration plan, and how the things are happening right now in terms of application process. And thank you all who watched us on Zoom and YouTube for sharing your questions and sharing your comments. So we'll see you next week with a new topic, with